Drums are fundamental to the sound of a record. They're the skeleton onto which all of the other instruments are attached, but they're notoriously hard to record. They're intricate, they've got to be tuned, you've got to make sure that the microphone's picking them up correctly, they're loud, so you've got to try to get the levels right, and also you've got to make sure you don't annoy the neighbours. And also, they are going to be that bedrock that everything else sits on, so they've got to be right. You can't be making big mistakes. So, let's have a look at how to get drums right with basic home recording. So before we start recording the drums, we need to think about what we're trying to achieve here. We're achieving a basic recording, but we want to get a good sound. It's going to be kind of rough and ready, but we want a good sound. So, we're aiming for a simple but high quality sound. First off, simplicity. I've got a simple kit here. I've got hats, crash cymbal, ride cymbal. I've got one kick, I've got snare, and I've got 3 toms. That's all I need. In fact, you could probably make do with 2 toms on this. But the simpler the better. The fewer drums you're trying to record. Remember, you've only got one mic, so it's going to give it a more open sound. If you want to record with loads of cymbals, then yeah, go for it, that's fine. But I would recommend try to simplify it right down. So first off, simplicity. I've gone for the smallest kit that I think I can manage with. I've got my hats, I've got one crash, I've got my ride, I've got one kick, I've got my snare, I've got my 3 toms. That way there's more breathing space within the sound. Next up, I've tuned all of my drums. Now I've only got one head on each of my drums. I've got a flat kit actually, but even when I'm recording on my basic drum kit, I tend to only have one head, just the batter head. I'd buy a decent head like a Remo Pinstripe or an Evans G2 and tune it. There's loads of videos about tuning. Check out Bob Gatson's videos. They're really, really good. But I try to go for like a Remo Pinstripe or an Evans G2 because it means I don't have to then start sticking tape on it or anything. If it's well tuned, it'll sound nice anyway. Now you can probably hear there's a little bit of sympathetic snare buzz. That's not worrying me on these toms. However, that's quite nasty. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lose this tom. I'd rather have fewer toms that sound good than try and make it with something that doesn't. So the head's really important, but also the cymbals. Now these aren't expensive cymbals, these are Stag. These are double hammered Stag bronze. I mean, you can try to borrow some decent cymbals, but quite frankly, most drummers would rather lend you their boyfriend or girlfriend for the night than their own cymbals. So if you're going to try to get cymbals, buy some of the high quality. These are B20 bronze. They weren't expensive, but they sound good. So I've got my kit set up. I've got my recording, my click track, and my guide track all ready to go. Next up, check the mic. So, making sure that the green lights are about as even as possible on my preamp. Now I'm in a relatively small room, so I've had to move my mic around. I always start with about 2 meters up, looking down, about 2 meters away, but I've moved it around and I've found something that I think sounds good. So let's give it a quick record and a check, see if it sounds okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That sounds alright to me. So, mic's probably alright where it is, and that means I'm probably ready to go. Now, it's not the most defined sound that you've ever heard, but that's okay, I can live with that. So, let's get recording and see how it sounds. So I've turned the guide track up, I've turned the click down a little bit so it doesn't come through into the rest of the recording. I'm going to click my sticks at the start of the track in time with the metronome in case they fall out of time with each other. And let's see how this recording goes. I'm happy with how that sounds. So, having recorded all that, I'm now going to make sure there aren't any mistakes, go through, re-record if I need to, and make sure it's all in time. And once that's fine and I'm happy with it, then it's ready to put down and for the bass guitar to go on top. Top tips for recording drums. Number 1, wear earplugs. I mean, it's not just because of the volume that you'll be playing at, and you will be playing at high volume in a small room, so you will potentially damage your hearing. But it's also about getting the best sound. If you've got earplugs in and cans over the top, then you'll be able to hit those drums harder without hurting your ears, without feeling as self-conscious about it. And that is going to mean that you're going to get a better recording sound in general. If you're playing like rock and stuff, obviously if you're playing jazz, then you don't want to be hitting so hard. But if you're playing noisy rock, punk, metal, anything like that, wear earplugs because it'll encourage you to hit harder and you'll get a better sound. The other thing to think about as well is percussion. A lot of songs have actually got extra percussion in the form of tambourines, maracas, shakers, that kind of thing. Cowbell as well. I mean, some songs will require cowbell. If you're going to do that, do it on a separate layer afterwards. So play the drums, and then after everything else, even after vocals, add the percussion on then. Because then you can sort of work out what the flavour of the song is and what kind of percussion is needed. So, that covered how to record drums in this video. Next time we're going to be looking at bass guitar to build upon that foundation. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.